Well, we've all had those days where we've lost track of time and ended up being a little late to work or perhaps some other important event. However, would someone like your boss ever give you accommodations for your lateness? Well, some mental health experts are saying that consistent tardiness could be a sign of mental illness. Joining me now is the host of Rich Valdez, America at Night, Rich Valdez. And also with us is Republican strategist and the host of the 13-Minute News Hour, Bobby Eberly. And we have our special guest, constitutional attorney, Andrew Lieb. Gentlemen, quick reactions from each of you. Rich, are you buying it that this could be a mental health issue?
So, at first I hear this and I say, oh my gosh, this sounds like the biggest cop-out ever. But you know what? For years, people have asked me, hey, are you running on Puerto Rican time? And I would laugh. And later on in life, the doctor told me I had ADHD, and that was why I had a tough time distinguishing time. And I'd say, oh, I saw my friend a week ago. My kids would say, no, that was like 4 years ago. So I think there is some truth to this, but it doesn't mean that you can't show up to work on time. It just means you got to work twice as hard to deal with whatever issues you've got.
Yeah. Bobby, what's your take?
Well, I love that, actually. But I do think that this is a slippery slope to next work aversion syndrome, where you get hired and then you sue the employer because he actually makes you work. This is what the left keeps pushing. And I think we're headed in a crazy direction when all people need to do is be a little more focused on the job, do it right, and enjoy the rest of their life.
Andrew, I guess what legal issues come up with this kind of defense? I mean, if it is some sort of a medical diagnosis, or if there are employees who struggle to stay on time, maybe they're let go because of chronic lateness at work.
Kilney, I'm a discrimination attorney at heart. We own a discrimination law firm, Lieb at Law. And I have to tell you, there's a 0% chance I would take a case like this. An employer is going to win. I do defense on this. Number one, it needs to be a statutorily recognized disability, which this is not to qualify under the ADA. And assuming it was a statutorily recognized disability, it would have to show that the employer didn't have a corresponding undue hardship. And you can't tell me that any employer wouldn't have a hardship when they didn't know when their employees were going to show up. It's just an insane concept. I can't believe she had the gall to go out and say this is something she's having. I feel bad for the gal, but that doesn't mean that you get an accommodation. Not everyone gets what they want. That's just hard times. That's the world we live in. The ADA is not your saving grace. I don't think she should use it, Kilney.
Yeah, Rich, not to throw particular generations under the bus, but there are, I guess, more accommodations made for certain employees in this day and age, given, I guess, the political climate that we live in right now. Do you think employers would bend on this at all?
Well, lamentably, I never thought employers would be taking knees and doing all the things they do and forcing everybody to take DEI training, but we see that happening. So, yeah, I think that, and if you don't want to throw any generations under the bus, give me the keys to the bus. I'll happily do it. I think that you've got everybody above the Gen X generation, right? Millennials, the Gen Y, mainly Gen Z. They seem to be a lot thinner skinned. They're not made out of the same stock as, I guess, the rest of us. And they're looking for an excuse at every turn. Whether you have a disability or not, or whatever accommodation you may need, you can try to seek those. But the bottom line is people have to do their jobs. And if employers are going to coddle people, we're going to see more of it instead of less.
Bobby, your take.
Yeah, I mean, this just goes along with the lines of what you see with administrators in colleges, right? They seem to be bending and yielding to the students. It's like the students are running the show. So I could easily see some of these, especially left-leaning DEI pushing employers, bending and having sleep pods, little nap pods for these employees so they don't get their feelings hurt or they don't get triggered. I can definitely see them bending to that. And what you get is a workforce that's not actually working, but they're sure trying to feel good in the process.
All right, Bobby, we give you the final word. Or I'm sorry, not Bobby. Andrew, we give you the final word.
I would say to you, anytime you stray from your policy for one group, if you're a boss, you're an employer, and you allow employee to get something, you are now creating a reverse discrimination issue with anyone else that's not getting that thing, especially when they have a baloney reason to get it. So it's very important that employers don't bend to this. It's very important that they have policies and procedures, because we want to allow people that really have disabilities, handicaps, to get exactly what they need. I think, Kilmy, the big key here is that we shouldn't abuse the laws, because that undermines people that actually need the laws to be able to do their job.
Panel, great points. Rich Valdez and Bobby Eberly, thank you. And of course, a huge thanks to our special guest.